Hello everyone, warm welcome to Super Coaching Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Testbook. My name is Madhav Sir. I welcome you all in your next session on finance current affairs where we are going to cover the most important current affairs from 13th to 15th of April. So before I start the discussion, may I have a reply in the comment section that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine, we are good to go. Just reply in the comment section with yes sir so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Guys, as we always do, let's quickly copy the link of this session and share with our friends so that more and more students, they are aware that yes, the session is live and they can join the session live with us in no time. So today we are going to discuss many important news which are going to help you a lot in your upcoming examination. But before that, if you want to download the PDF of this session, guys, the PDF of this session will be available on my Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel is visible on the screen. You can scan the QR code or even you can join the Telegram channel by the name Economics by Madhav Sir, and my handle is @Madhav Sir. ठीक है जी? So I guess we are good to go. If you all are ready and you want me to start with the discussion and you say that yes, audio and video is correct, then we'll start the discussion without any further delay. Guys, today's session will help you to understand a very important concept related to the banking sector. And trust me guys, the moment we will be ending this session, you will be pretty confident about one of the concept which you, or I would say most of you, have never ever got the opportunity to learn in a very appropriate manner. So I'll try my level best कि जो मैं समझाऊं वो आपको क्लियरली समझ आ जाए, और अगर एग्जामिनेशन में उससे रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन आए तो आप फॉर श्योर उस क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व कर पाए. सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. सो टुडे before I start, I have two questions for you which we will be discussing related to a single news. So let's quickly jump to the news first. Then we'll come back and discuss that particular point. So the first question from where I'm going to start my discussion, or the first news from where I'm going to start the discussion, is counter-cyclical capital buffer not needed in present circumstances according to RBI. So recently RBI has come up with a statement, and in this statement RBI said कि सर ये जो काउंटर साइक्लिकल कंजर्वेशन बफर है, या फिर मैं कहूं कि हमारे पास जो CCB है, that is counter cyclical capital buffer, it is no more required according to RBI. अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि सर आखिरकार इस बफर का मतलब क्या, what is the meaning of this particular buffer? वो तो बात की बात है कि सर कब मेंटेन करना है, कब मेंटेन नहीं करना, अब आरबीआई ने क्यों मना किया कि इसे मेंटेन नहीं करना, ये सारी तो बात की बात है. लेकिन उससे पहले हमें यह जरूर पता होना चाहिए कि सर ये जो बफर की आप बात कर रहे हैं एक्चुअल में ये बफर है क्या, क्यों मेंटेन किया जाता है, और उसके जैसे क्या क्या बफर्स हम मेंटेन करते हैं. तो प्लीज पे अटेंशन गाइस. आई विल स्टार्ट माय डिस्कशन इन दिस मैनर. अगर हम इस डिस्कशन को स्टार्ट करें तो ध्यान से एक पॉइंट को सुनेगा. आई एम जस्ट एडिंग अ स्लाइड. 1 मिनट का समय दीजिएगा. ठीक है, अगर हम बात करें बेसल नॉर्म्स की, अगर आपको याद हो, यू ऑल मस्ट हैव हर्ड अबाउट बेसल नॉर्म्स. और बेसल नॉर्म्स जो है दे आर प्रेजेंटेड बाय BCBS, दैट इज बेसल कमेटी ऑन बैंकिंग सुपरविजन. एंड अगर हम बात करें द पेरेंट अथॉरिटी इज BIS, दैट इज बैंक फॉर इंटरनेशनल सेटलमेंट्स. बेसल नॉर्म्स आज तक 3 प्रेजेंट की गई है. वन वाज बेसल 1, फिर आई बेसल 2, फिर उसके बाद आई बेसल 3. अगर हम बात करें कि सर इन तीनों की तीनों नॉर्म्स का व्हाट वाज द क्राइटेरिया व्हाई दीज बेसल नॉर्म्स वर इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, द क्राइटेरिया इज वेरी सिंपल. सो बेसल नॉर्म्स वर इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन ऑर्डर टू सपोर्ट द बैंकिंग सिस्टम, in order to, I would say, come up with certain norms, rules and regulations which should be followed all over the world so that we can maintain global stability, we can maintain global monetary as well as financial stability. With this particular target, Basel norms were introduced. When Basel 1 was introduced, I would say that Basel norms are those norms which have basically highlighted the need, the requirement of risk mitigation which are associated with the banking sector. If I talk about a bank, every bank is exposed to n number of risk. For example, we have credit risk. Credit risk का मतलब क्या हुआ कि भैया आपने लोन लिया और अगर फ्यूचर में आप उस लोन को वापस नहीं करते तो उसका लॉस किसको होगा, उसका नुकसान किसको होगा, बैंक को होगा. सो दैट प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ लॉस ड्यू टू नॉन रीपेमेंट ऑफ लोन इज नोन एज क्रेडिट रिस्क. Then liquidity risk. Liquidity risk का मतलब bank do not possess the liquidity to make the withdrawal at the time of demand. तो that is liquidity risk. तो ऐसे काफी सारे risk हैं to which our banks are exposed, and in order to help the banks, that they should identify, and not only identify, they should also mitigate the risk. The initiative was taken under the Basel norms. So Basel 1 has identified only one risk, that is credit risk, and in order to counter the credit risk, it has come up with a statement that we need to maintain capital adequacy ratio, which I will be discussing in a while. After that, in Basel 2, there was a revision how we will calculate the risk. Earlier, the risk percentages were given in Basel 1, which we'll discuss someday when we'll talk about Basel 1. लेकिन आपने सुना होगा in Basel 1 0%, 10%, 20%, 50% और 100% risk को pre-define किया गया था, लेकिन on the basis of what? On the basis of which you need to calculate the RWA. लेकिन Basel 2 में internal rating framework और बहुत सारे frameworks को introduce किया on the basis of what risk will be calculated. फिर Basel 3 आया और Basel 3 में capital adequacy ratio के साथ साथ capital conservation buffer और capital conservation buffer के साथ साथ counter cyclical capital buffer को भी क्या किया गया? Introduce किया गया. So these were the three buffers which have been introduced in Basel 3, and it has been improved over CAR, which was only one buffer which was supposed to be maintained after Basel 1. अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि सर व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय द वर्ड CAR? CAR का मतलब क्या? सर CAR बेसिकली स्टैंड्स फॉर कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो. Now the question is, so what do you mean by the word capital adequacy ratio? Sir, it is nothing but it is a ratio. Ratio of what? So the ratio of bank's capital divided by bank's risk weighted asset. Bank's risk weighted asset, and this ratio is known as capital adequacy ratio. This is the same ratio which is also known as capital to risk weighted asset ratio. एक्चुअल में इसके पीछे का मैथ्स क्या है? व्हाट इज द रीजन, व्हाट इज द लॉजिक दैट व्हाई दीज रेशियोज CAR, कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो और कैपिटल टू रिस्क वेटेड एसेट रेशियो. ध्यान से सुनना, आज तक अगर ये पॉइंट समझ नहीं आया था, ध्यान से सुनना, अगर आज तक ये पॉइंट समझ नहीं आया था तो आज समझ आ जाएगा इसके पीछे का लॉजिक क्या है. देखो, जब भी कभी हम कैपिटल की बात करते हैं, व्हाट इज कैपिटल? सो कैपिटल मींस द इन्वेस्टमेंट. कैपिटल मींस द इन्वेस्टमेंट which is done by a company to earn profit. Investment means capital means the investment which is done by the company to earn profit. अब इस capital में क्या क्या होगा? Sir, इस capital में we'll include funds which have been raised from the owners, that is the equity funds. So we'll include equity funds, or I would say the equity holdings. Then we include the profits of the bank, which are again the part of capital. We include debt ऑफ द बैंक, जो भी बैंक ने लोन लिया क्यों? सर बैंक ने, कंपनी ने लोन लिया इन ऑर्डर टू एक्सपैंड देयर ऑपरेशंस, इन ऑर्डर टू पुश अप देयर ऑपरेशंस. सो ऑल दोज फंड्स व्हिच आर बेसिकली यूज्ड टू अर्न प्रॉफिट, दैट इज नोन एज कैपिटल. नाउ व्हाट इज रिस्क वेटेड एसेट? सर रिस्क वेटेड एसेट, एज द नेम सजेस्ट, रिस्क वेटेड एसेट, प्लीज पे अटेंशन. सर रिस्क वेटेड एसेट इज नथिंग बट इट इज सम ऑफ, it is nothing but it is sum of risk. It is sum of risk on every asset of the bank. On every asset of the bank. इस पॉइंट को समझते हैं, 2 मिनट लूंगा, इससे ज्यादा समय आपका लूंगा नहीं, लेकिन आज समझ आ गया तो हमेशा याद रहेगा कि आखिरकार ये है क्या. अगर मैं एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल लूं कि एक बैंक है, उस बैंक ने 100 रुपए का लोन दिया. बहुत एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल है कि एक बैंक है, सर उस बैंक ने 100 रुपए का टोटल लोन दिया. उस 100 रुपए के लोन में से कुछ पैसा बैंक ने लोन की फॉर्म में दिया टू एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर, कुछ पैसा बैंक ने दिया होम लोन के फॉर्म में, और कुछ पैसा बैंक ने दिया इंडस्ट्रियल लोन के फॉर्म में. अगर मैं कहूं 30 रुपीज इन केस ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर लोन, 20 रुपीज होम लोन, इंडस्ट्रियल लोन इज 50. Now what I'm trying to say, so we will have a risk associated with each and every loan, और जो रिस्क है वो सारे के सारे लोन्स के लिए सिमिलर तो होगा नहीं. रिस्क will be different for different types of loans. For example, the risk for agriculture sector is 50%, risk for home loan is let's say 100% and risk for industrial loan is let's say 10%. अब ये risk क्यों कम है? So depending upon the borrower conditions, depending upon the market conditions, depending upon the collateral which have been kept as a security at the time of lending, उन सारी conditions को जब हमने ध्यान में रखा, then this is the risk which we have come across on all the assets. Now let's suppose if bank's entire loan is declared as NPA, or if I say the bank's entire loan is not repaid back, then in that particular case, bank will witness a loss of value 100 rupees. No sir, bank's loss value is not 100, it is less than 100 because यहाँ पर जो risk है that is only 15, the risk over here is 20 and the risk over here is 5. तो बैंक का जो total risk है, what is bank's total risk? So bank's total risk is 15 plus 20 plus 5, that is 40 rupees. So what is risk weighted asset? So risk weighted asset is 40 rupees. So from the total asset, what we have calculated, so from the total asset, we have calculated the risk weighted asset. And how we calculate the risk weighted asset? So we calculate the risk weighted asset, that is the sum of risk on every asset. And how we calculate risk on every asset? So we calculate the risk on every asset, that is asset value into risk percentage. How I have calculated asset value into risk percentage? So what is my asset value? Agriculture loan 30 rupees is my asset. Why loan is my asset? Because I'm a bank, I'm lending the agriculture loan. Obviously I will be earning return on a loan. So for a bank, loan is asset, but for the borrower, it is a liability. The one who is borrowing, for that individual, it is a liability. So we have asset value, that is 30 rupees into risk percentage. So what is the risk percent? The risk percent is 50%. So out of 30, 50% is risk. So what is going to be total risk value? That is 15. So how we calculate risk on every asset? So we calculate the risk on every asset, that is asset value into the risk percentage. And obviously this risk percentage is going to be different for different assets. And once we have calculated RWA, then according to Basel norms, according to Basel 1, bank's capital to RWA ratio should be greater than or equal to 8%, which means, as per my example, it means that the bank's capital should be greater than or equals to 8% in this format. So what will be the bank's capital as per my example? Sir, as per my example, the bank's capital is need to be what? Sir, it is need to be more than 3.2 rupees. If bank's capital is more than 3.2 rupees, it's fine. If it is below 3.2 rupees, then penalty will be charged. And what kind of penalty is going to be charged? If you remember PCA, prompt corrective action, under the prompt corrective action, RBI review these capital adequacy values, and if bank has not maintained the capital adequacy ratio, then bank will be included under the threshold conditions, that is risk threshold 1, 2 and 3. And depending upon your risk threshold condition, there will be some mandatory restrictions as well as discretionary restrictions which are related to CAR, that is capital adequacy ratio. So if CAR is clear, give me yes sir, then I'll move ahead. If capital adequacy ratio term is clear, just give me yes sir so that I can move ahead. So capital adequacy ratio is an indicator of how well a bank can meet its obligation. It is also known as capital to risk weighted asset ratio. The ratio compares the capital to risk weighted asset and it is watched by regulators to determine the bank risk or failure. And in India, the proactive action taken by RBI is PCA, and on the format of PCA, RBI revise or RBI review the capital adequacy ratios of the bank on regular basis. Not only CAR, along with that we have net NPAs. Along with CAR, we have net NPAs as well as we have leverage ratio. Tell me yes or no if I'm correct. Do we include leverage ratio while deciding PCA factor? If yes, if no, do reply in the comment section. क्या PCA कैटेगरी को या बैंक PCA में ऐड होगा या नहीं, इसे कैलकुलेट करने के लिए do we include leverage ratio as well? Do reply in the comment section. अगर बैंक की कैपिटल सो बैंक कैपिटल कैन बी लेस देन इट्स एनपीए। बेटा एनपीए का यहां पे कोई लिंक ही नहीं है, क्योंकि एनपीए टर्म जो है दैट इज बेसिकली नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट, बट फॉर दैट एनपीए यू नीड टू कैलकुलेट द रिस्क वैल्यू। आप समझो मेरी बात को, एनपीए इज रिजल्ट, रिस्क इज एक्सपेक्टेशंस। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? एनपीए रिजल्ट है, आपने लोन दिया, लोन एनपीए डिक्लेयर हो गया, दैट इज अ रिजल्ट कि भैया ये हमारा लोन एनपीए हो गया। अब उस एनपीए में देखना है कि सब स्टैंडर्ड में रुक जाएगा, डाउटफुल में जाएगा, या फिर एंड ऑफ द डे लॉस एसेट डिक्लेयर होगा। बट इफ आई से क्रेडिट रिस्क, दिस इज माई एक्सपेक्टेशंस, वो रिजल्ट है, दिस इज एक्सपेक्टेशन एंड आई एम मेंटेनिंग द कैपिटल बिफोर हैंड अगेंस्ट माई एक्सपेक्टेड लॉस, not my actual loss which you are talking about NPA. For NPA we have provisionings which are done for each and every sub category of the NPA. अगर सब स्टैंडर्ड है तो आपकी प्रोविजनिंग कुछ होगी डिपेंडिंग अपॉन सिक्योर्ड और अनसिक्योर्ड, फिर डाउटफुल प्रोविजनिंग होगी, फिर लॉस एसेट तो प्रोविजनिंग होगी, तो वो तो बिल्कुल अलग चीज हो गई। आई होप यू आर गेटिंग माई पॉइंट। Whosoever has that, अरुण, सॉरी अरुण नहीं, फन, आई होप दिस पॉइंट इज क्लियर टू यू। आई होप दिस पॉइंट इज क्लियर टू यू। अगर नहीं समझ आया तो दोबारा कमेंट सेक्शन में लिखना, इसको डिस्कस कर लेंगे। गाइज इफ इट इज क्लियर टिल दिस पॉइंट, शैल आई मूव अहेड? ठीक है, मेजॉरिटी ने कहा क्लियर है, लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट। नाउ द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट वी हैव इज दैट इज after capital adequacy ratio in Basel III, two more terms were introduced. One is CCB, that is capital conservation buffer, and the next one is counter cyclical capital buffer. अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि सर इनका मतलब क्या? देखो इनका मतलब इनके नाम से है, बफर। आपने सुना होगा बफर स्टॉक, FCI maintains the buffer stock, FCI का बफर स्टॉक खराब हो गया। What is buffer? So buffer means something extra. What is buffer? So buffer basically means something extra. So अब CAR मेंटेन करने के बाद कुछ बातें सामने आई। वो बातें क्या आई वो ध्यान से देखना कि सर जब बेसल 1 में CAR की बात की गई, एट दैट पर्टिकुलर मोमेंट जो RWA था दैट वाज कैलकुलेटेड with respect to credit risk only, but this is not the only risk to which a bank is exposed. तो भैया RWA अब जो कैलकुलेट होगा that will not only include credit risk, it will include liquidity risk on every asset, it will include bank's market risk and all. So once all the risk related to a particular asset are included, and then what is calculated? Sir, RWA is calculated, and according to Basel norm, every bank which is following the Basel norm, every country's bank which is following the Basel norm, they should maintain their capital adequacy ratio greater than or equal to 8%. But RBI ने कहा नहीं सर, हमारी कंट्री में we have many more borrowers, we have many more issues related to NPAs, फिर चाहे वो विजय माल्या जी हो या कोई और हो। तो उस केस में RBI ने कहा नहीं सर, इंडिया में 8% से नहीं चलेगा, we need more than 8, that is 9%. So there is nothing wrong because BIS said minimum should be 8, RBI saying minimum should be 9. That means RBI is accepting BIS but incrementing it just for more safety, just for more regularity. Got it? Now, अब ये जो कैपिटल को मेंटेन करना, ये जो कैपिटल को मेंटेन किया जाएगा या जिस कैपिटल की हम बात कर रहे हैं सर, एक्चुअली बैंक की कैपिटल को 3 कैटेगरीज में कैटेगराइज किया जाता है। वी कॉल इट एज टियर 1 कैपिटल, we call it as additional tier 1 capital, and then we have tier 2 capital. Now ये terms आपके सामने बहुत बार आई हैं कि यार tier 1 capital, tier 2 capital, and I know 99% students they are still not aware what is tier 1, what is tier 2, what is additional tier 1. कुछ नहीं है। आप ध्यान से सुनना, 2 बातें समझ आ जाएगा। एक्चुअल में पूरी की पूरी क्या है सर? ये पूरी की पूरी आपकी है कैपिटल। कैपिटल का मतलब वो पैसा which you have invested to earn profit. कैपिटल में क्या क्या इंक्लूड होगा सर? कैपिटल में इंक्लूड होगा जो पैसा आपने रेज किया है अगेंस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट। तो इन्वेस्टमेंट में हमारे पास 2 ही इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है। वी हैव 2 इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स टू रेज फंड्स अंडर इन्वेस्टमेंट, दैट इज वी हैव इक्विटी शेयर्स एज वेल एज प्रेफरेंस शेयर, एंड नेक्स्ट इज you raise the funds in the form of loan, that is debt instrument. So these are the 3 sources of capital. These are the simple 3 sources of capital. Now I will be keeping these, or I would be saying I will be arranging these sources in different formats. So tier 1 capital includes common capital. Common capital, you call it as core capital, you call it as equity capital, it is same. So this is the most liquid, this is the most, I would say, reliable capital with the bank, which can be used to overcome all the different kind of losses in near future if required. But when these capitals, or I would say when equity shares are issued, you know that equity shares are also issued on premium value. If the equity shares are issued on premium value, so the premium share value will be included under tier 1. Not only this, if a company is earning profit, that profit will be the part of tier 1 capital. If the company is having reserves, that reserves will be the part of tier 1 capital. If company has sold out a land, that amount which company has received after selling fixed asset, that also will be the part of tier 1 capital. Then what is additional tier 1 capital? Sir, additional tier 1 capital talks about the perpetual instruments. So what are perpetual instruments? A perpetual instrument basically means the instruments which are issued with no time period or with no defined period of redemption. कि ये कब redeem होगा, ये कब redeem होगा, ये redeem नहीं होगा, या redeem का time period क्या होगा, that is not predefined. So that is basically known as perpetual instruments. For example, you issue preference share, non-redeemable preference share. You issue debt instrument which is non-redeemable. That means जब तक company है, you will be getting the interest, but you cannot come back to the company, return करोगे इस instrument को and company will pay your principal back. That is not possible. All those are perpetual instruments. Last, if I talk about the debt instruments, they are included, or debt capital or the capital raised through debt instruments, they are included under tier 2. ये मोटी बात है. अगर इसको आप deep में जाके देखेंगे, so this is the depth. Tier 1 capital includes core capital, share premium, as I said, capital reserves from the sale of assets, disclosed reserves, profit and loss. Tier 2 में we have सबसे पहली चीज debt capital instrument, जहां से हमने बात की debt capital instruments. Then we have perpetual cumulative preference shares, redeemable cumulative and non-cumulative preference shares, undisclosed reserves are the part of tier 2 capital. लेकिन additional tier 1 में क्या होगा सर, हमारे पास होगा perpetual non-convertible preference shares, non-convertible preference shares जो कि फ्यूचर में इक्विटी में कन्वर्ट नहीं होंगे. As I said, perpetual debt instruments are the part of what additional tier 1, और इन्हीं को इशू करने पर जो प्रीमियम मिला that will also be the part of additional tier 1. इसके अलावा जो जनरल प्रोविजंस है, लॉस रिजर्व्स है, या फिर जो इन्वेस्टमेंट रिजर्व्स है, या फिर एक्सेस प्रोविजंस है, दे ऑल आर द पार्ट ऑफ व्हाट, दे ऑल आर द पार्ट ऑफ टियर 2 कैपिटल. लास्ट, ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है सर, गुडविल as well as other intangible assets are deducted from common equity tier 1 capital. So when we calculate the tier 1 capital, for this calculation in that particular context, we do not include what? So we do not include the goodwill or intangible assets as a part of tier 1 capital, as well as the amount which you have paid. For example, you have paid advanced taxes. These advanced taxes are your future liability but current asset, so they are also excluded from the asset side, and operating losses are also deducted from the tier 1 capital side. This is what you need to remember. ठीक है जी, समझ आ गई बात? I hope this point is clear. So tier 1 capital क्या है, additional tier 1 capital क्या है, as well as tier 2 capital क्या है, all the points have been discussed on the screen. If it is clear, just give me yes sir. अब इसके बाद अगर हम आगे बढ़े, after maintaining the capital adequacy ratio in basel 3, capital conservation buffer as well as counter cyclical capital buffer was introduced. So our BCB has come up with the statement that every bank will maintain capital conservation buffer above capital adequacy ratio. मतलब क्या कि आप already you are maintaining capital adequacy ratio. After maintaining the capital adequacy ratio, you need to maintain capital conservation buffer. As per BIS, this is 8% and this is 2.5%. In India, this is 9%. In India, capital adequacy ratio is 9% and capital conservation buffer is 2.5%. तो अगली बार कोई पूछे कैपिटल कंजर्वेशन बफर क्या है? एज द नेम सजेस्ट बफर, इट इज द एक्स्ट्रा कैपिटल प्रोविजनिंग, और आई वुड से इट इज द एक्स्ट्रा calculation we do with respect to the capital just to make sure that in the tough times we can easily survive, the bank can easily survive. So that is capital conservation buffer. Is it clear? I hope there's no doubt. After this, after capital conservation buffer, Basel 3 came up with a statement that once banks they have maintained the capital adequacy ratio, सबसे पहले capital adequacy ratio maintain कर लो, फिर कैपिटल कंजर्वेशन बफर मेंटेन कर लो, एंड आफ्टर दैट बैंक शुड मेंटेन काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर, एंड दिस काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर विल बी मेंटेन्ड इन अ रेंज ऑफ 0 to 2.5%. इट विल बी मेंटेन्ड इन अ रेंज ऑफ 0 to 2.5%. एंड ये जो 0 to 2.5% का रेंज है, ये कब 0 होगा, कब 2.5 होगा, कब इसके बीच में होगा, we'll discuss those ranges also, don't worry, but yes, it should be maintained in a range of 0 to 2.5%. अब क्वेश्चन आया कि सर आपने CAR की कैलकुलेशन तो बता दी, टीयर 1, एडिशनल टीयर 1 एंड टीयर 2 कैपिटल, बट कैपिटल कंजर्वेशन बफर के लिए फंड्स कहां से आएंगे, काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर के लिए फंड्स कहां से आएंगे? देन द आंसर इज, सर in order to maintain the capital to RWA ratio of 2.5% for CCB, that is capital conservation buffer, and 2.5% for let's say counter cyclical capital buffer. So ये 2.5% और 2.5% टोटल कितना हो गया? 5% हो गया. तो इसके लिए जो कैपिटल है उसे इंक्रीज करना होगा. अब कैपिटल इंक्रीज करने के लिए सोर्स क्या होगी? सर द सोर्स इज बैंक शुड रिड्यूस. ध्यान से देखना, बैंक शुड रिड्यूस द डिविडेंड पेमेंट. अगर बैंक dividend, what is dividend? So dividend is the payment made to the shareholders of the company, and this payment is made out of the net profit of the company. So bank should not distribute dividend. If bank is not distributing dividend, that means this dividend will be the part of profit and it will be kept as profit reserves under tier 1 capital. तो इससे क्या होगा? So tier 1 capital will increase, and that tier 1 capital can also have the counter to 2.5% of RWA. Second, if company is planning to go with share buybacks, company should reduce the staff bonus payments. If company is planning to pay bonus payments to the staff, that should be reduced, and even company should try to raise tier 1 capital either by raising the investment, and this investment can be raised with the help of your stocks. That means you can issue the stocks in the market to raise the funds so that common capital increases or your core capital value increases, and इसे increase करो so that the increased capital or the overall capital is capable to maintain CCB as well as counter cyclical capital buffer. So this is the entire list. I'll just make you understand. Please pay attention. In case of CAR, out of tier 1 capital, I'm talking with respect to, I'll talk with respect to RBI as well as BCBS. दोनों के हिसाब से बात कर लेते हैं, nothing to worry. So as per RBI, out of tier 1, it should be 5.5%. As per BCBS, it should be 4.5%. Additional tier 1 capital should be 1.5% of RWA. It should be 1.5% of RWA. और tier 2 capital कितना होगा? So that is 2% of RWA. ये point समझ आया? What I'm trying to say? I'm saying if CAR is equals to 9% of RWA, so this 9% of RWA is equals to 5.5% of RWA, 1.5% of RWA, 2% of RWA. If you add them, the total comes out to be 9%. और ये 1.5% एडिशनल टीयर 1 से होगा, उसके बाद टीयर 1 से कितना होगा? So that will be 5.5%, and what will be the value from tier 2? So that is 2%. अब कैपिटल कंजर्वेशन बफर और सीसीबी के लिए हमने क्या बताया? बोनस पेमेंट्स कम कर दो, उसके साथ साथ डिविडेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कम कर दो. बात बन गई तो ठीक, नहीं तो एंड ऑफ द डे this is also maintained out of tier 1. End of the day, this is also maintained out of tier 1. तो tier 1 में this is maintained 2.5%, 2.5%. This is also 0 to 2.5%, 0 to 2.5%. If you have any doubt कि ये 0 to 2.5 में कितनी रेंज होगी, क्या होगी, कब होगी, वेट फॉर अ वाइल, अगले आधे घंटे में सब क्लियर हो जाएगा. बट अगर ये वाला पिक्चर क्लियर है देन जस्ट गिव मी यस सर. अगर ये पिक्चर क्लियर है तो जस्ट गिव मी यस सर. और यहां से एक चीज जो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है जो आपको समझनी होगी, अगर मैं टोटल चेक करूं, कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो प्लस कैपिटल कंजर्वेशन बफर प्लस काउंटर साइक्लिकल कैपिटल बफर, तो अगर मैं इन तीनों को चेक करूं तो व्हाट विल बी द वैल्यू सर? इट इज लेट्स से कैपिटल काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर इज लेट्स से 2.5%. तो 2.5 प्लस 2.5 कितना हो गया? 5%. 5% प्लस 9 कितना हो गया सर? दिस टोटल इज गोइंग टू बी 14%. And if I say out of tier 1, so how tier 1 is to be maintained? So tier 1 should be equal to at least what? 5.5%, 2.5%, 5.5%, 2.5%, and the last one is 2.5%. Again, if I take it, so ये कितना हो जाएगा? So this is 10.5% of RWA. So tier 1 capital of the bank should be at least 10.5% of RWA. This is the situation till now. कोई doubt? Any doubt? If it is clear, just give me yes sir so that I can move ahead. If it is clear, just give me yes sir so that I can move ahead. It's going to be really very important. Let's move to the next point. Now the next point we have is in order to talk about the counter cyclical buffer. If I talk about the counter cyclical buffer, then my answer to this particular question is based on the current news. RBI has come up with a statement that currently we don't need banks to maintain काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर. सर इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? अब इसका मतलब समझो, इस पॉइंट का मतलब समझना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, ध्यान से देखना. CAR is mandatory, bank has to maintain. CCB is mandatory, bank has to maintain. But capital or counter cyclical buffer is not mandatory. Bank will maintain it during good times. जब बैंक के अच्छे दिन चल रहे हो, bank is earning well, growth of the economy is going well, bank has good value of NIM, good value of net interest income. At that particular moment, bank should maintain capital counter cyclical buffer. Bank should maintain counter cyclical buffer, but ye good times will be announced by RBI. So RBI will tell you what are the good times, when you have to maintain, when you don't have to maintain. All these decisions are taken by RBI. Now the question is, sir, all the decisions related to counter cyclical buffer were given by which committee? Then the answer is RBI has set up an internal working group of Reserve Bank of India was set up under the chairmanship of B. Mahapatra. So B. Mahapatra, he has submitted the final report on the implementation of counter cyclical capital buffer. और ये रिपोर्ट आई थी जुलाई 2014 में, और 2015 में आरबीआई ने इसे क्या कर दिया? इंप्लीमेंट कर दिया. और आरबीआई ने कहा कि ठीक अब से काउंटर साइक्लिकल बफर के लिए जो भी कंडीशंस है, जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, दैट इज एज recommended by the given committee. So who is the chairperson of the committee? The name is B. Mahapatra. The report made recommendations in areas such as, अब रिपोर्ट में क्या क्या recommendations हुई? सर रिपोर्ट में recommendations हुई in the areas such as indicators that may be used for counter cyclical capital buffer decisions, threshold for activating the buffer, lead time for announcement of the buffer and what not. बताता हूं क्या इसका मतलब है कि सर कौन कौन से फैक्टर्स हैं which will be kept in mind, when to maintain triple CB and when not to maintain. Second is what should be the threshold value of these factors, as well as what should be the lead time. Lead time means what time will be provided to the bank so that the bank can maintain these buffers. ऐसा तो है नहीं आज बोला कल बफर मेंटेन हो जाएंगे, नहीं. You need to give some time to the bank so that bank can use that time in order to maintain these buffers. So all these conditions are decided by RBI, and the procedure to decide, or I would say the powers of RBI are recommended, or I would say the implementation of this triple CB is recommended by B. Mahapatra committee. Now, each and every point is really very important. The first point, sir, what is the aim of counter cyclical capital buffer? क्यों रखते हैं, क्यों रिजर्व कर रहे हो? आपने CAR रखा हुआ है, then you have maintained CCB. What is the requirement of this now, the new one, that is triple CB? First reason is it requires banks to build up buffer of capital in good times, which may be used to maintain flow of credit to the real sector in difficult times. तो उन्होंने कहा सर अच्छा है ना, you have maintained capital adequacy ratio, you have achieved capital conservation buffer. If your capital is capable, to achieve triple CB as well, this is good. इससे क्या होगा सर? This capital which you have increased will be used at during the tough time. तो जो आपकी capital value increase हुई है because of triple CB, that can be used during the tough times. And वो जो tough time में अब use करेंगे, that is the major concept behind the term buffer. इसलिए तो word हमने use किया buffer. Second point बहुत important है. Second point says that in order to achieve the macro-prudential goals, macro-prudential goal of what? So macro-prudential goal of restricting the banking sector from indiscriminate lending. Indiscriminate lending का मतलब जो आए वो समाए. Indiscriminate lending means whosoever is coming to the bank to borrow the loan, bank is giving away the loan irrespective of the borrowing capacity, irrespective of the credit score, irrespective of the credit rating, irrespective of the project proposal, whatsoever it is, that is known as indiscriminate lending. If you remember financial crisis, that is global financial crisis 2007 to 9, that was basically the US banks, they have given indiscriminate lending, or we use a word subprime lending, especially to the home loan sector, which led to the distribution of huge value of loan for purchasing the houses, and eventually the house, or I would say eventually the real estate market fell down, especially the residential property rates fell down, which led to the failure of many of the borrowers, which led to the increase in bank NPAs, and those increased NPAs led to the fall of many banks of the country. So this is what, कि जब आपको लगे, जब भी कभी RBI को लगे कि बैंक्स जो है वो जरूरत से ज्यादा, रिक्वायरमेंट से ज्यादा, when RBI feel that banking sector is providing excess loan, or I would say excess value of loan, and loan is given on regular basis without checking out the actual requirement, to stop the bank, to decrease the bank's lending capacity, RBI can introduce CCB. तो जो पैसा बैंक यूज कर रहा था फॉर लेंडिंग, जो पैसा बैंक यूज कर रहा था फॉर लेंडिंग, दैट कैन नॉट बी यूज फॉर लेंडिंग, रादर बैंक हैज टू होल्ड दैट फंड इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कैपिटल. बैंक हैज टू होल्ड that fund in the form of, in the category of capital, so that the triple CB requirement can be fulfilled, and that is the reason this is the second aim of introducing counter cyclical capital buffer. So counter cyclical capital buffer in the period of excess credit growth that often have been associated with the building up of system wide risk. तो जो risk है उसे mitigate करना, उसे रोका जा सकता, और when you are in good times, you should maintain the buffer, and this buffer will help you to counter the tough times in the near future. These are the two reasons why triple CB is maintained. Now, as I discussed already with you all, I discussed this point with you all, that CCB may be maintained in the form of what? So CCB will be maintained in the form of common equity tier 1, that is tier 1 capital, other fully loss absorbing capital only, and the amount of triple CB may vary from 0 to 2.5%, which we have already discussed. And what is 0 to 2.5%? So 0 to 2.5% of RWA. CCB, please pay attention, CCB decision would normally be pre-announced with a lead time of 4 quarters. As I said, if RBI want that yes, banks should maintain CCB, for example, RBI announced in April during its first monetary policy of 2025-26, if let's suppose RBI says that bank should maintain CCB of 2% or triple CB of 2%, then in that particular case, banks will be given 4-quarter time to achieve those targets. That means by next year, by 4 quarters, you have to reach to a value of 2% of RWA in your tier 1 capital beyond the requirements which you have already, beyond the requirements or buffer which you have already fulfilled for capital adequacy as well as for capital conservation buffer. समझ आई ये बात? So what time will be given? So the time period which is going to be given, that is in general 4 quarters. But if the situation is tough, then this time period may vary, and RBI can even say you in next 3 months, that means in just 1 quarter, maintain the triple CB because situation is out of control, situation is pretty tough. So that is also possible. But in general, what is the timeline? So in general, the timeline is 4 quarters. Now the question is, so in order to make this judgment that whether banks should maintain triple CB or not, that decision is taken not only on the basis of one factor, but one of the most important factor is credit to GDP ratio. What is credit to GDP ratio? Then I'll come to credit to GDP gap. So credit to GDP basically means total credit given by the banking sector of the country divided by total GDP of the country. This is known as what? So this is known as credit GDP ratio. This is known as credit GDP ratio. Now what is credit GDP gap? If I say credit GDP gap, what does it mean? Sir, it means the gap between the two ratios. This is the gap between the two ratios, that is credit to GDP ratio in the current scenario, that is today, minus the long term credit to GDP ratio, minus the long term value of credit to GDP ratio at any point in time. For example, today, credit to GDP ratio is, let's say, 10%. That means if our GDP is 100, 10 rupees of lending is done. And the long term credit to GDP ratio is, let's say, 6%. So the gap between the two is 4%. So what is the current credit GDP gap? So the current credit GDP gap is 4%. Current credit GDP gap is what value? So that is 4%. So this is the most important factor which is taken into consideration by the RBI before deciding that whether banks should maintain the CCB or not. But this is not the only factor. As I said, after checking out credit to GDP ratio, then you must check its relation with the gross NPA growth. See, अगर एक तरफ credit बढ़ रहा है with respect to GDP, that means something is fishy cooking in the economy, because credit is increasing, borrowing is increasing, and if the borrowing is increasing on one side and on the other side there is a growth in GDP as well, that means it is the high time we should decrease the lending done by the bank, and for that we should ask the banks to maintain triple CB so that this buffer can counter the, I would say, the losses or the issues which a bank may witness in the upcoming future because of high credit to GDP ratio as well as because of high gross NPA ratio. Is it clear, everyone? But on the other side, if credit to GDP ratio is increasing but gross NPA ratio or gross NPA value is not increasing, that means it's okay if credit value is increasing in the country and the company is borrowing loan, they are paying back the loan, and the GDP, with respect to the GDP, credit value is high but gross NPA is not increasing. Still we can think of, or I would say RBI should think wisely that whether they should activate triple CB today or not. So not only credit to GDP ratio, but this GNPA, that is gross NPA growth, is also very important to make a decision that whether bank should maintain triple CB or not. Is it clear, everyone? I hope this point is clear. Moving on to the next point. The next point is, along with these two factors, there are certain supplementary factors as well. So you can say that the primary factor is credit to GDP ratio along with gross NPA ratio or gross NPA growth. But some of the supplementary factors include incremental cash deposit ratio, incremental cash deposit ratio. If the cash deposit ratio is increasing, which means deposit is decreasing in the banks, if the deposit is increasing, if the deposit is increasing in the bank, deposit is decreasing in the bank, then there is a point to worry. Second is industrial outlook. If you are giving the loan and industry is capable enough to pay back the interest to service the loan amount, it's fine. But let's say if industry is sitting in a passive mode, that's why we don't need loan, our economy is not doing well, we are not able to sell our goods. So in that particular scenario, if the lending is still done, it will impact the overall growth rate of the economy. Why? In this scenario, industry is very well aware that we cannot earn much profit. Still, they have borrowed the loan because it was very easily available from the banking sector. This will result in excess supply in the market. It will result in, I would say, glut of goods and services in the market, which will result in deflation, recession, and many more things. Last but not the least is that is interest coverage ratio. If the companies, the borrowers, they are capable to service the interest, it's fine. But if it is felt that the interest coverage ratio is not appropriate, if this ratio is not appropriate, that means the capacity of the borrower to pay the interest is not intact as per the interest payment he is liable to pay in the upcoming year or month, then you should introduce CCB right away. You should introduce CCB right away. So remember that the final decision on this particular criteria will be taken by RBI as always. But what RBI will do first? So first of all, RBI will check credit to GDP ratio. Then RBI will check gross NPA growth. Then RBI will review incremental cash deposit ratio, industrial outlook, interest coverage. Then on the basis of all the factors, RBI will take the decision in general. But RBI has this power. RBI has this power that RBI can take the decision on its discretion as well. So RBI can take the decision on discretion as well. So the Reserve Bank of India may use discretion to use all or some of the indicators with the credit to GDP ratio. So in this context, you need to remember that RBI has the power that RBI should use all these indicators, or RBI may not use even one of these indicators while deciding that whether CCB or triple CBs need to be maintained or not. But the primary factor is always kept in mind, that is credit to GDP gap ratio. Clear ho gaya? If it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that I can move on to the next point. Guys, if it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that I can move on to the next point. I'm pretty sure the next point is really very important. मजा आएगा, चीजें आपको अच्छे समझ आएंगी. But if it is clear till this point, just give me yes sir. Okay. मैं बता देता हूँ. See, whenever cash deposit ratio is high, अगर cash deposit ratio is high, which means cash value is greater than deposit value, yes or no? Agar cash value is greater than deposit value, which means banks, they do not possess good value of deposit, but still on the other side, they are keep on providing the loan. So what will be the result? So the end result will be cash crunch. The result will be liquidity crunch in the banking sector, as it was witnessed back in January 2025. So when RBI think about implementing, or RBI think about that bank should maintain triple CB, in that particular case, bank after checking out, RBI after checking out credit to GDP ratio and gross NPA, RBI should review market CD ratio, that how CD ratio is performing in 3 years. See, for a moving period of 3 years, if it is increasing, it's a point to worry. If it is decreasing, then it's fine, because deposits are increasing. On one side, bank deposit is increasing, on the other side, bank's credit is increasing, it's okay. But if credit is not increasing, rather it is decreasing, see, incremental increasing CD ratio. If CD ratio is increasing, means deposit is decreasing and credit is increasing. So this will result in what? So it will result in liquidity crunch on the banking sector. On the other side, interest coverage ratio means the capacity, I would say in this manner, interest upon income of the borrower. If interest is 100, income is 1000, that means borrower can easily service the interest. But if interest is 100 and income is 100 or 120 or 110, this is going to be a tough situation, which may result in loans to be declared as NPA in near future. So loans haven't declared NPA today, but there is a probability that they can be declared NPA in the near future because of the interest coverage ratio. Interest with respect to the, I would say, with respect to the amount out of which the company is supposed to pay the interest. So if I talk about a company that is earning before interest, taxes, amortization and depreciation. So if that is 100 and out of which you are supposed to pay 90 rupees of interest, that means it is a tough call for a company, and company may not survive pretty long, and end of the day company will stop making the repayment of the loan and the loan will be declared as NPA. Is it clear now, whosoever has asked this? CCB only maintain if profit is high. No, CCB is tried to be, first aim is when bank is doing well, then in that particular case, RBI asks the banks कि यार अच्छा चल रहा है सब, everything is going really very well, let's maintain the CCC buffer. Let's maintain the CCC buffer. This is something, अच्छे दिन चल रहे हैं तो थोड़ा और अच्छा कर लेते हैं. Let's increase the buffer. Second condition is if something is going wrong in the economy, where credit GDP gap is increasing, borrowing is increasing, lending done by the banks is increasing, which may result in issues related to huge NPAs, huge losses to the bank in near future. It's better once you observe that thing, let's try to maintain the buffer to counter those things in the near future. So that is the second aim for which we maintain CCCB. Is it clear now? Is it clear now? If it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that we can move ahead. Yes, Shubhadeep, absolutely beta. You're going in the right direction. Yes. So Shubhadeep, I have explained all the points you asked me to. Okay, so Kumkum, I hope your question has been answered. Now it is clear. Moving on to the next point. Now the next point is, when CCCB is asked to be maintained and what value is needed to be maintained. ध्यान से सुनना, ये पढ़ लेना. You will have this in the PDF. But if I talk about credit, to GDP gap, if credit to GDP gap is below 3%, if credit to GDP gap is below 3%, what is this credit to GDP gap? This means current credit to GDP ratio minus long-term credit to GDP ratio. If this gap is below 3%, then in that particular case, CCB is going to be 0%. In that particular case, CCCB is going to be 0%. It is going to be 0%. The moment this gap increases, 3%, then RBI may ask the banks that you should maintain CCCB. Then RBI may ask the banks that you should maintain CCCB. If CCCB is in a range, credit to GDP gap is in a range 3 to 15%, then CCB will be 0 to 2.5%. And what value it will be? Sir, if this gap is close to 3, then it will be close to 0. If it is close to 15, then it will be close to 2.5%. As it increases from 3 to 15, it will increase from 0 to 2.5%. The moment this gap is greater than 15%, then triple CB is need to be 2.5% thoroughly. Then it will be 2.5% thoroughly. Is it clear, everyone? Is this point clear? I guess there's nothing डिफिकल्ट इन दिस. कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, बिल्कुल सिंपल है. मैंने आपको क्या दे दिया, मैंने आपको क्राइटेरिया दे दिया कि अगर जीडीपी गैप, क्रेडिट टू जीडीपी गैप, अब कोई पूछे कि क्रेडिट टू जीडीपी गैप क्या है, आई हैव टोल्ड दिस 10 टाइम्स, लेट मी टेल यू वंस अगेन. सो दिस इज क्रेडिट टू जीडीपी करंट रेशियो माइनस क्रेडिट टू जीडीपी लॉन्ग टर्म रेशियो. इफ दिस गैप is below 3%, no need to maintain CCB, no need to maintain triple CB. Once it crosses a mark of 3%, then start maintaining the triple CB. And obviously after the announcement made by RBI, if it is in the range of 3 to 15%, that gap, then it will be in a range of 0 to 2.5. If the gap is close to 3, it will be close to 0. If gap is close to 15, it will be close to 2.5. If your gap is equal to or greater than 15%, then triple CB will be maintained up to its maximum value, that is 2.5%. That is 2.5%. ठीक है जी. देखने में लग रहा होगा कितना इजी है, बट अगर आप नोटिफिकेशन खोलेंगे, जिस नोटिफिकेशन से मैंने आपको ये पूरी न्यूज पढ़ाई है, in that notification it is given in this manner. 10 मिनट लग जाएंगे. You will take at least 10 minutes to understand what actually the notification trying to say, but ठीक है, I have spent that time for you and this is the conclusion for you, which is very easy. Just follow it and you are in a position to answer the question if it will be asked in the examination. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया point? ठीक है, I hope the point is clear to everyone. चलो, now moving on to the next point. The next point is few conditions. These conditions are for all banks operating in India. For all banks operating in India, triple CB shall be maintained on solo basis. It should be maintained on solo basis as well as on the consolidated basis. मतलब आपका single bank का भी CCB is need to be maintained, and overall all the banks total CCB value, triple CB value should be as per the requirement. Next is all banks operating in India, both foreign as well as domestic banks, they should maintain capital for Indian operations. They should maintain capital for Indian operations under triple CB framework based on their exposure in India. मतलब SBI की ब्रांच इंडिया में भी है, इंडिया से बाहर भी है, तो जो उनको एक्सपोजर, the exposure which SBI is facing in India, against that exposure only triple CB will be maintained, not against the exposure which is SBI is facing in US. On the other side, if SBI is operating in US, then in US, if required, the conditions related to CCB will be followed as per the jurisdiction of US. समझ आ गई बात? पहली चीज, sir, this is applicable for all the banks. If a bank is operating outside India, then in that case, in India, the conditions which we have discussed, that will be based on only Indian exposure. But if you are operating outside India, then CCB will be as per the foreign country, foreign nation jurisdiction. जो वहां कहे, जैसा देश वैसा बेस, उसके अकॉर्डिंग आपको क्या करना होगा, मेंटेन करना होगा. ठीक है, चल नाउ अगला पॉइंट. अब अगला पॉइंट है कि सर, जैसे कि हमने पीसीए में पढ़ा, इफ कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो is not up to the mark, then in that particular case certain restrictions are introduced on the bank. But in that case we studied mandatory restrictions as well as discretionary restrictions. Mandatory means which will be applicable on each of the bank irrespective of the scenarios. Discretionary means it is in the hands of RBI which restriction to apply, which to not, depending upon the scenarios. So in case of triple CB, banks subject to restriction on discretionary distributions. What discretionary distribution? So bank discretionary distribution include dividend payment, share buybacks as well as staff bonus payments. If they do not meet the requirements on counter cyclical capital buffer, then in that particular case what will happen, this you need to understand. तो मैं क्या कह रहा हूं कि बैंक को क्या कहा गया कि अगर आपने if you have not maintained the criteria related to triple CB. Let's say RBI has asked the banks that you should maintain triple CB of 2.5%. ट्रिपल सीबी से पहले you have to maintain, you have no other choice, you are already maintaining double CB capital conservation buffer of 2.5% and you are maintaining capital adequacy ratio of 5.5%. I'm talking about only tier 1 capital. In tier 1 capital, so the total is what? 5 plus 5, that is 10.5%. So if your tier 1 capital is greater than or equal to 10.5% of RWA, then in that particular case, what will be the restriction? So restriction will be 0%. But if tier 1 capital is equal to 9.25% to 10.5% of RWA, then the restriction is 40%. What does it mean? Sir, if you were supposed to distribute 100 rupees as dividend, then you will be distributing only 60, 40 is restricted. If you are distributing staff bonus of let's say 200, then you will be distributing only 120 because 40%, that is 80 rupees, is the restriction on you if your tier 1 capital with respect to RWA is in this range. If tier 1 capital upon RWA is in this range, then the restriction is 60. If tier 1 upon RWA is this range, then it is 80%. And if it is in this range, then 100% restriction, which means you cannot distribute any amount in case of dividend payment or in case of share buyback or in case of staff bonus payment. Now the question is how this calculation is done. So this calculation is done in a very simple manner. I'll explain you how this calculation is done. See, CAR, capital adequacy ratio, this is minimum, this is 5.5%. Then we have CCB, capital conservation buffer, which is undoubtedly you have to maintain 2.5. Then triple CB, you have to maintain again 2.5%. So range is, or I would say the minimum value is 10.5%. If your tier 1 capital upon RWA ratio is below tier 1 upon RWA ratio is below 10.5%. If it is below 10.5%, then restrictions will be introduced. Now, how this range is calculated? If you can see this range, so this range is 25% of CCB. 25% of CCB means 25% of 2.5, 25% of 2.5%. 25% of 2.5%. What will be the answer? 2.5% of RWA. So it will be what value? 25 into 25. That is 625. 625 means I would say it is 62.5%. I'll remove 1%. I'll divide it by 100. So it comes out to be 0.625%. Calculation समझ आई? Calculation नहीं समझ आई तो समझ लो. What I'm saying is 25% of CCB. And what is CCB? Sir, it is 2.5% of RWA. Done. 25% of counter cyclical capital buffer, which is again, I have taken this. मैंने ये लिया है. What I have assumed? I have assumed that if CCB, triple CB is 2.5%, then I have calculated this range for you, the restriction values for you. Now, in this case, if I say this is 2.5% of RWA, भाई देख लो थोड़ा सा कॉन्ट भी बढ़ा देता हूँ. It will be helpful for you in your phase 1 examination. तो ये होगा 25%. I'm writing 25% as 25 divided by 100 into 2.5% as 2.5 divided by 100 into RWA. Let's solve this. 25 into 25 is 625. ये decimal है तो ये हो जाएगा 62.5 divided by 100. So I remove 100 with the decimal तो ये हो जाएगा क्या sir? It will be 62.100 into 1 by 100 है ना. इसको मैंने किया 0.625 divided by 100, which means 0.625% of RWA. 0.625% of RWA. Similarly, if I do over here, it will also come out to be the same value, that is 0.625% of RWA. दोनों को ऐड करते हैं, 0.625 plus 0.625. If you add them, 600 plus 600 is 1200, 25 plus 25 is 50, so it's going to be 1.50. It's going to be 1.50. If you come out over here, then what is the minimum value? CAR 5.5. 5.5 में आप ऐड करो जो आपने अभी कैलकुलेट किया था. क्या कैलकुलेट किया था? 1.25. So 1.250, that will be 6.750. तो पहली जो रेंज बनी 5.5 to 6.75. दूसरी रेंज क्या बनेगी? 6.75 में 1.25 दोबारा ऐड करो, 6.75 to 8. 8 में 1.25 दोबारा ऐड करो तो 8 to 9.25. 9.25 में दोबारा 1.25 ऐड करो तो 10.5. So this is how this range is constructed. समझ आया? मजा आया? जिसको मैथ समझ आया बहुत बढ़िया, नहीं समझ आया कोई बात नहीं, रख लेना, इट्स नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट. अब मैंने एक एग्जांपल 1% लेकर भी कर दी है, अगर किसी को मन करे तो सॉल्व करके देख लेना. यहां पे मैंने CCB को 1% लिया, ट्रिपल CB को 1% लिया, एंड आई हैव कैलकुलेटेड दिस रेंज फॉर यू. इफ यू वांट यू कैन डू इट. लास्ट पॉइंट, banks they must ensure that triple CB requirements are calculated and publicly disclosed with at least same frequency. So bank should ensure that triple CB requirements they are calculated and they are disclosed publicly. Last but not the least is triple CB decisions may form a part of first bi-monthly monetary policy statement of the Reserve Bank of India for the year. अगर इस साल RBI को लगता कि we have to maintain triple CB in that particular case, what RBI will be doing on? So in that particular case RBI क्या करेगा? RBI ने अगर करना होता तो इसी बार की मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी यानी अप्रैल मंथ की मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी में अनाउंस कर देता that bank should maintain triple CB. Clear है? Guys, now it's your turn. Take the screenshot. Take the screenshot. जल्दी से. The entire screen is yours. I give you 10 seconds. You have 5 statements. And in the comment section, you need to give me in this way, answer 1, or I would say, first answer, which all options are correct. You can say in this manner, answer. इसको A question कर लेते हैं. Question A. So you just say for A, which all options are correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. जो options correct होंगी out of 5, just mention it in the comment section. Just mention the correct options in the comment section. If it is clear, if you have taken the screenshot, just give me yes sir. If you have taken the screenshot, just give me yes sir so that I can move ahead. If you have taken the screenshot, just give me yes sir so that I can move ahead. Okay. Done guys? Just reply quickly. Okay. This is the second question. Again, take the screenshot and you need to choose the correct statements out of the given 5 statements. So you need to choose 5. You need to choose the correct statement out of the given 5 and do comment the answer in the comment section. So last but not the least is, I think I had one more news for you. There is one more news for you which I'll quickly discuss. The news is what major changes have been introduced by NPCI in its revised UPI framework regarding international transactions. So regarding the international transactions, NPCI has done certain changes in case of UPI framework. What are those changes? If you know, please reply in the comment section. I'll just read it out for you. It's very easy. So NPCI has revised the UPI framework, introducing major changes to the international and domestic QR based transactions. Not only international but also domestic QR based transaction. The announcement follows frequent outages reported by the users of Google Pay, Paytm and other UPI platforms. QR share and pay for international transaction has been discontinued. मतलब अब आप QR कोड की मदद से इंटरनेशनल पेमेंट्स कंडक्ट नहीं कर सकते. दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. फर्स्ट पॉइंट. सेकेंड इज इंडियन यूजर्स अब्रॉड इंक्लूडिंग द NRIs, they can no longer scan merchant QR code sent via messaging apps or social media for cross border payments. अगर आपको मैंने WhatsApp पे, हम कहते हैं ना भाई मैं WhatsApp पे QR भेज रहा हूँ, QR कोड स्कैन किया, QR कोड की इमेज ली, इमेज लेकर आपने मुझे WhatsApp पे भेजा, मैंने उसी इमेज को यूज करके क्या किया, आपको पेमेंट कर दी उसी इमेज को यूज करके. विद द हेल्प ऑफ दैट given image I have made the payment. But now it won't be possible in case of what? Sir, in case of the Indians who are residing outside India. In case of Indians who are residing outside India, they are not allowed. They are not allowed for what? Sir, they are not allowed. They are not allowed for what? Sir, they are not allowed to make the payment with the help of the scanned QR code which is sent via WhatsApp, Facebook or something like that. Move aimed at enhancing the security and compliance due to concern around traceability and potential misuse. Very important. New 2000 cap. Please pay attention. New 2000 cap on QR share and pair for unverified merchant. So the merchant, if the merchant is not registered with NPCI, in that particular case, more than 2000 transaction by scanning the QR code is not possible. So what is the answer to this question? Sir, what are the major changes? Introduction of QR code payment for international transactions, discontinuation of QR share and pay for international transaction, no change. Launch of cross border UPI नहीं, तो एक ही है. Discontinuation of QR, discontinuation of what? So discontinuation of QR share and pay payments, international payments. So QR share and pay for international transaction has been discontinued even for the NRIs who are staying outside India, or the Indian citizens who are staying outside India. They are also not allowed now through scan and pay option. Is it clear, everyone? Okay, so that will be all from my side, guys, in this particular session. We'll catch you in the upcoming sessions to go. And if you want to download the PDF of this session, I will be sharing the PDF right away in next 10 minutes on the Telegram channel. You just join the given Telegram channel and you can download the PDF from this channel for sure in next 10 to 15 minutes. If you have any doubt, you can ask, please. I'm ready to take all your doubts. And if you don't have any doubt, or if you will be watching this session in a recorded format, then you can ask your doubts in the comment section as well. And don't forget to answer. Don't forget to answer the homework questions. So I have given you 2 homework questions. Do answer the questions in the comment section, which is really very important. If you are not answering if you are not completing your homework next time, trust me, I won't be taking your doubts. So I'll remember the names of the students who will be commenting. They will be only eligible to ask the doubts in the next session. And do give the feedback. How was the session? As you said that you want a mixed bag, so I have taken up a small news related to NPCI, and even I have taken up a big conceptual news related to RBI direction. So in this format, in this mixed big bag format, we will be moving ahead to complete your finance current affairs so that you can clear the exam in the very first attempt. Thank you so much for joining, guys. We'll catch you in the next session. Bye-bye. Take care. Good luck. And don't forget to like the session before leaving. If you're watching us for the very first time, you are new joining on our channel, then do subscribe the channel, do hit the bell icon. I'll be coming up in upcoming videos as well. So catch you day after tomorrow, that is on Saturday, same time 5 p.m. and tomorrow you will be having your PIB current affairs session by none other than Manish Sir at 5 p.m. again. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck. God bless you all.